Right. Am I live now? Can I just get a thumbs up from someone to show that I'm live? Wonderful. Well, afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to see that a lot of parents and kids and staff have joined this live session with me. This is my second live session over the last few days, and I'm absolutely pleased to be a part of this excellent session. Thank you, Entab, for giving me this platform to talk to wonderful educators, parents, kids in different parts of the world. Well, I've spoken about a lot of topics with regards to education over the last few days, and it's important for us to understand where we find ourselves in. We're in the midst of the crisis that we find ourselves in at this point of time. It's important for us also to understand what is the way forward and how do we all come out of this, particularly in terms of education. Well, firstly, I hope that all of you are safe at home, that you are having a nice time at your homes at this point in time. It's a difficult time for all of us. All of us are sailing in the same boat. We've all been thrown into the deep end of the ocean, and we're all trying to find a way out of this, the crisis that we find ourselves in, of course. Particularly, I'm going to talk about, for those of you who have just joined, of course, I'm going to talk about what is the future of education, how can we come out of this, and what are the particular steps that we should take as educators, as school managements, as governments, to particularly come out of this mess and make sure that education doesn't stop and that our kids are being educated well. Those of you who are not educators on this video chat, it will be a great insight for you into the education ecosystem. So if you have questions, of course, feel free to ask. Towards the end of the session, I will take a lot of questions, like I did last time as well. So we'll just start in a bit, right? Now, the education ecosystem hasn't changed as much as we think it has. It's just that the pedagogy has changed, and it has changed in such a way that it has to make us rethink how we particularly can proceed in terms of coming up with a new education ecosystem, how things will change in the future, what are the various steps that we need to take as educators as well. I'm getting a lot of questions, a lot of afternoon wishes. I'm very happy to see that a lot of our staff and kids have joined this live chat. I can't even see my screen at this point in time because I'm getting a lot of questions. So I'll try and talk as much as I can, and I'll take all of your questions. And I wish all of you a wonderful afternoon again. Very happy to see the wishes that are coming my way currently. If you can just see my screen, you'll see that there are 100 wishes at one point in time. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for your love, and thank you for taking out time to come on this live session. A lot of other students and parents are going to join as well. I've received a lot of SMSs and texts, and I'm very happy to be in front of you. I'm very happy to interact with you. Having a chance to meet our kids at the end of March, and couldn't even meet the parents on the various PTMs that we have planned. I make it a point to meet all of you. So this is my platform to just stay in touch with you as well, and of course to give you an insight into how education will change in the next few months. Thank you, everyone. So now I'll actually start with the talk, right? So the pillars of a great school in the 21st century haven't actually changed. They are exactly the same. And what I'll do over the next few minutes is that I'll try and walk you through them. What are the pillars of a great school, and how particularly can those pillars be applied in terms of education, in terms of schools, in the current crisis that we find ourselves in? So the first pillar of a great school, of course, is a shared vision, value, culture, ethos, based on the highest expectations of all the stakeholders. Now the key point over here is the highest expectations of all the stakeholders, and the second key word in this point, of course, is the culture. Uh, what is the culture of a school? How has the culture of a school changed? What particularly do we have to keep in mind in terms of the current culture of a school that we have right now, and what will have to change in the future as well? Um, well, there are various thoughts about culture that are coming to my mind at this point of time. The culture defines the particular sets of the values, is the ethos that a school particularly has, and any other institution for that matter as well, whether it's a profit or not for profit institution. But it's very important to keep this point in mind as well, that the biggest shift that we are going to see in education in the next few months will be in terms of the culture for education itself. We are going to shift from a grade-based culture, which we've seen for decades right now, and we are going to shift to an actual learning and research-based culture. That's the biggest shift that we are going to see in the next few months, of course. For decades, the education system which we have hasn't changed. For centuries as well. If you see, the education industry, of course, hasn't really changed in the way that we educate our students. So we are dependent on a grade-based culture, a culture that depends on the marks that you get, a culture that depends on how well you do in your tests. Well, now we are going to shift to a culture of actual learning and research. And I'm very happy to say that over the last few weeks, I have seen our students particularly, and of course the kids from different parts of the world and different schools, understand the difference in this culture. Students have realized, parents have realized one particular thing at this point in time, that the role of a school isn't to just share content. Content is available everywhere online. If you do a small search as well, you will find answers to all the questions that you have. So what is the role of a school? The role of a school is to give a child an educational experience that a child cannot get elsewhere. So the role of a school, the role of an educator isn't just to pass on the content that he or she has learned or mugged up eventually, and then force the kids to also mug it up as well. The role of an educator and the school is very, very clear. And in this post-COVID world as well, the role of an educator and the school will be very, 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 very clear. It's to give that experience. It is to give that experience so that a child learns in an environment holistically. So it's the social bonds that you form at school, right? It's the interaction that you have with educators. It's the questions that you can ask. It's the doubts that can be cleared. These are things that you cannot do on your own, and that's why you need educators. And school is just it's a platform where educators and students interact, and I think that's one thing that should be very, very clear to parents as well. A few quotes about culture, of course. Abraham Lincoln, who was one of the presidents of the US, said this about culture: that it's better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak out and remove all doubt. This is just one of the few funny quotes that I'm going to share during my whole talk. So if in a culture, if you are not encouraged to speak your mind, and if within the setting of an institution, if you are not encouraged to talk what comes to your mind, and if you are pulled back or if you are pulled down eventually, then there's something wrong. And we also have to understand this point as well, that culture always trickles down from the top. So if there's something wrong at the lower levels of an institution or a school, it means that it trickles down from the top as well. So there's a mindset change that's required in terms of top managements of schools. And once that mindset change is there, then everything at the bottom levels also will be absolutely fine. One more quote over here, which can apply in terms of schools as well, is that if you're going to tell people the truth, be funny or they'll kill you. um, it's important to like also keep this point in mind as well, that you have to tell others what they want to hear, but you also have to say it in such a way that they understand what you are saying. And once again, this trickles down from the top. If you can just give me 1 second, I'll try and remove the chat. I'll try and remove the chat screen because I'm not able to actually understand. Yes. So I'll take all of the questions in the end. Of course, I've just removed the chat screen in front of my screen. So just give me a little bit of time, and then I'll of course answer all the queries that you have. The second point, the second pillar of a great school in the 21st century, and particularly post Covid-19, is inspirational leadership at all levels throughout the school. Now, there are a lot of things that we can say about leaders at this point of time. It's the time where the top managements of schools, where the principals, where the directors, owners, where the head of years, where the senior management teams of various schools need to understand that it's a critical role that they're playing. A critical role in this sense that a lot of lives, a lot of jobs, the education of thousands, millions and crores of students in different parts of the world is dependent on the decisions that you are taking at this point of time. So you have to keep in mind the demands and the requests of all of the stakeholders. And it is not an easy task. I am personally going through this as well. There are certain situations that you find yourselves in where you don't know how to react. But it's important that you do. And it's important that you at least take some action. Otherwise, if you don't take any action, that's considered lack of leadership as well. So it's important to just keep a few points in mind in terms of being the management of a school at this point of time. One, the most important point is that you need to communicate with your team, with the parents and the kids. It's very important that you keep all lines of communication open, and that you are also transparent with your thoughts, and you're also transparent with the communication that you're doing during this difficult phase. But also you need to be authentic with what you are saying. It has to be based on a lot of facts and figures. So one particular example that I'll share of our current schools is that initially we thought that we were going to start with Zoom lessons. But then there were a lot of issues with Zoom, and then Zoom was in the news for all the wrong reasons. So we shifted to Skype after a lot of research, which we of course did. Now, based on the various feedback that we got from parents, students, staff, we realized that Skype as a platform has its own pros and cons. So very soon we are about to shift to Microsoft Teams. So these are quick decisions that you have to make as a part of the management of a school. And we have to understand one thing, of course, that schools are in the true essence not for profits. Schools cannot be run as for profit institutions. So it's the education of kids that matters the most. And then I'll also be coming to this point in a bit as well. One example that I'll share with you of how a CEO made sure that his company grew into one of the biggest in the world is as follows. There's an asset management firm called the Vanguard Group. During the 2008 crisis, the deep recession where we found ourselves in, where in different parts of the world there were millions of layoffs, and a lot of those known to you, particularly in the Western world, lost their jobs. The CEO took a quick call and he said, look, I am not going to lay off anyone, right? I'm not going to fire anyone at this point in time. If we aren't earning money, I will not fire anyone. I will make sure that we weather the storm, that we ride the storm, of course. So what he did was that he made sure that 50% of the staff salaries were paid. So he particularly made sure that all of his employees were paid at least half of the salary that they used to get during normal times. And the reason that he gave to his board was that when things come back to normal, which they will very, very soon, particularly in the next few months or in a year or two, it is the same employees who will be absolutely loyal to us, who will make sure that clients are serviced well. So during the current crisis which we find ourselves in as well, it is important to understand that we have to take tough calls, and being a part of school management of course means that you have to face the bricks and the bats, but the team that is working with you, the institution is there because of the team that's working with you. So it's important to also keep their needs into consideration. And it's also important to educate yourself about the current crisis and to take decisions and precautions based on facts. A few quotes about being a leader are as follows: that if you're a leader, always drink upstream from the herd, because you don't know what your team will throw in the water. Of course, that's that's just a funny way of saying that that you are all by yourself, and the decision which you take, of course, you will face a lot of flack, but you might also get praised as well. But then you have to take those. The first, there's something funny that I'm going to share with you over here as well. That as a leader, you aren't sure whether you're being followed or chased most of the times. So if you are being followed, of course, it's good. But if you're being chased, and then you should particularly know why you're being chased. Coming to the third pillar of a great school, exceptional teaching, learning, assessment, and feedback to support the highest levels of attainment and achievement. This is where the students come in. 85% of the jobs in the year 2030 haven't been created yet. We don't even know the jobs of the future at this point of time. What is going to happen in the job market, particularly given the current crisis that we find ourselves in? What is going to happen? What is going to be the demand in terms of the job market? What are the skills that we require for jobs of the future? So I've spoken about this at various forums in the past as well. But the job market is going to change entirely within the next few months. And it's important that as educators we educate our students about this as well, particularly those kids who are just about to pass out, the grade 12 students, and of course if you're into higher education, and then your college kids, and plus your master level and plus your doctor level kids as well. Life skills are going to be very important, and I'm particularly going to talk about this in one of the few points that I'm going to talk about next. We have to remember that everyone is absolutely unique, but so is everyone else. So keeping this point in mind, of course, it is important to understand this, that we have to upgrade ourselves. We have to learn, unlearn, and relearn constantly, particularly as educators, because the world that lies in front of our young minds at this point of time is a chaotic world, and we have to train them for that world, and there are a lot of things that they will not understand. So as educators, we have to constantly learn, unlearn, and relearn as well. The fourth pillar of a great school during the 21st century, and particularly during the current crisis that we find ourselves in, is a relentless focus on engaging and involving students. Right. Most of the teachers aren't used to the current online lessons that we are going through. Parents are definitely not used to it. Students, of course, are not used to it as well. So how do we engage our students? How do we make sure that they're having fun during their lessons so that they want to learn more and more? There are two words that I'll talk about right now, two abbreviations, FOMO and FOBA. Now, FOMO is the fear of missing out, which we all know. That's where we constantly check our WhatsApp, our Facebook, our Instagram during different times of the day. FOBA is the essence of FOMO, which is the fear of being alone. Now, our students, our kids have been born into this online world, particularly students that are in schools at this point of time, Gen Z. They have been born into this online world. They were particularly born with phones and laptops. I mean, the older ones, of course, with laptops and tabs and PCs, but the younger ones, of course, with phones in their hands, smartphones. So this is the world that they live in. This might not be the world that we live in. We might have some me time which might not involve the phone, but then for kids, me time is the phone. During their lifespans, or during our lifespans as well, we have shifted from various social media platforms, from High Five to Orkut to Facebook to Instagram to WhatsApp to Snapchat, and then you look at the younger ones at this point in time, TikTok. This is the world that they live in. So we also have to keep that point in mind. 60% of Gen Z students want to collaborate. They are happy collaborating with students in different parts of the world to learn more and to share their thoughts, and to also understand how students from different parts of the world learn as well. 50% of our kids at this point of time cannot live without YouTube. I think 100% of us can't live without YouTube as well. But it's a stat, and this stat has been shared by the World Economic Forum, WEF. So interconnectivity is very important. The world is interconnected, and schools need to realize this. Educators need to realize this. Parents need to realize this as well. And that's the only way in which we'll be able to proceed with education post this crisis. A day without sunshine is like night. So there are obvious answers to all the questions that we have as well. Some questions may linger on in your mind, but then I'm seeing that a lot of you are asking questions at this point of time. So just a little bit longer, and then I'll try and answer the questions as fast as I can. Coming down to the next pillar of a great school in the 21st century, and which I feel is a very important pillar. Personalized and highly effective continuous professional development within a school. PDPs, personalized professional development programs. These are very important, and particularly it's important that school managements take cognizance of this fact, and that they train the staff and the educators for this. In March, in particularly Asia and India, we were thrown into the deep end of the ocean, and then there wasn't much time to train our staff on how to take online classes. And I understand that point. But over the last few weeks, I am happy to say that educators have taken a wonderful stance, and they have picked up and honed a lot of these skills that they were not trained for. So hats off to all the teachers in different parts of the world. Of course, I'm going to come to this in a bit as well, but I would like to take this opportunity to just say that you're doing a wonderful job, and you're doing a job that is absolutely required. No one can do the job that you are doing. Making sure that students are being educated, making sure that they will have a brighter future post the crisis. You're not. Some of you are not getting paid. Some of you are getting paid late. There's a lot of flack that you're facing. You've been thrown into a world that you don't understand. Despite all of that, I'm happy to say that educators, you're doing a wonderful job. So keep up the good work, please. But professional development programs, these are things that we might have to relook post the crisis. What are the new skills that we require now? Now, the new skills that we require, of course, don't relate to just STEM, STEAM, or even SMAC, like I have spoken about in the past as well. Some of the skills that we require are human skills, are skills that that are inculcated in us since childhood, but because of globalization, because of westernization of things, we have never really thought about. So some of the skills that will get you through if you are a teacher are resilience. Resilience is the most important skill, and this is a skill that we need to teach our kids as well. Resilient, be resilient, do not give up, fight through everything, and that's how you will come out of this victorious. Adaptability, you have to learn how to adapt, which you have, but the speed at which you do will determine the outcome of whether you are successful or not. The third skill is flexibility. We all have to be flexible during this current crisis that we find ourselves in. Flexibility doesn't relate to just the physical flexibility which you see on YouTube videos at this point of time. It means that you have to be flexible. You have to be willing to learn new skills, and you have to adapt very fast. So that also refers to flexibility. The world isn't the same, and those who are willing to change, those who are willing to adapt will succeed in the next few months, in the next few years. And the last most important skill that we have to develop is emotional intelligence. We've spoken about this a lot over the last few years in terms of education, but this is a skill that you have to develop and hone, because your EI quotient will determine the outcome of the crisis for you. The sixth pillar of a great school is a stimulating and inclusive environment and climate for learning. Now, there are 813 million students in the world, school students, out of the roughly 1.3 billion students that we have, school students, K-12 education students in the world. 830 million do not have access to a computer, a laptop, or a smartphone. How are they going to learn with schools closed? What can we do for them? So the meaning of inclusivity has absolutely changed. Inclusivity possibly doesn't even relate to the fact that we have to build an inclusive society regardless of caste or creed. It means that in inclusivity in this current day and age, during the crisis particularly, refers to the fact that you are considered included if you have access to the internet. If you are not, you are excluded and you are secluded. So that's the way the world is at this point of time, and then we as educators have to understand this. Those of your students who do not have access to the internet, please make sure that you send them worksheets, that if you can send some books to them, if they are very close to your home, if they are in a different district where you can't reach, of course, then there isn't much that you can do. But if a friend of yours doesn't have a smartphone or so on and so forth, if you are a student, please particularly make sure that you are trying to help them at this point of time if he or she is living very close to your house. Do not meet them, of course. Don't interact with them. Practice social distancing, but try and help your friends as much as you can at this point of time. The seventh pillar is a rich and creative curriculum with and beyond the classroom, fully meeting the needs of individuals and groups of students. Well, we have spoken about this in our schools, and I've spoken about this with my staff many times in the past. There are different types of students that we have identified based on learning styles, and based on successful grades, of course. Every child isn't the same. Every child is unique. So we as educators have to realize this, and then we have to educate our students on that basis. Ken Robinson, who's a very well recognized educationist, who's currently based in LA in the US, Sir Ken Robinson has spoken about this as well. Students don't shine because they conflict with the system and think something is wrong with them. But that is absolutely wrong. There's nothing wrong with any child, and I constantly tell my staff the same thing as well. That if a child fails, there's a teacher who fails as well. The school fails. So there's nothing wrong with any child. Every child is wonderful. There's something wrong. There's something wrong with the way that they have been educated, of course. So our key responsibility as educators is to identify the various types of students that we have in the classroom and tailor make the pedagogy and the syllabus to suit their needs. They should not have to suit the needs of the syllabus, of the system. They will learn at their own pace. They might understand what is being taught in the classroom. We can teach them in groups. We can take extra classes. There are a lot of things that we can do as educators, but we cannot categorize them as failures. It is absolutely wrong. No one is a failure in life, and if you are made to believe that you are a failure, then you will always fail. You will never want anyone to call you a failure. So why call someone else a failure? That is the bane of our education system, that we categorize students as failures. So no child is a failure. Every child is wonderful. Every child has his or her own set of unique capabilities, and our role as educators is to make sure that they hone these skills. The problem with the current educational system, of course, is that it's a fallacy of political populism. Most of the educational regulations which we find haven't, of course, changed for centuries. The Indian education system hasn't changed for more than a century, ever since the British Raj. It is completely the same. But the current educational regulations which we have in place are also in place because of the fact that education is considered a wonderful vote bank, for reasons best known to those who consider it a vote bank. So populism, passing regulations which suit the need of only a particular section of society is absolutely wrong. I think that we have to look at the bigger picture over here. The syllabus needs to be updated. It is not fully updated at this point in time as well. So that's what we try and do in our schools. So that's where we step in as progressive schools, and that we try to particularly make sure that we teach our kids beyond the classroom. And there are various programs that we have planned for this in our school, of course, and then I'm sure that other schools must have planned a few things as well. So political populism is the bane of the current education system as well. The eighth pillar is high quality partnerships with parents, the community, other schools and networks locally and internationally. Well, I have a story to share over here. Someone shared this with me recently, and then I thought that I will share this with you. And this is with regards to the relationship that parents and schools have. There was a young entrepreneur once, and he just rented out an office. It was a big swanky office, and and it's the first day, and he opens his office, and he hasn't hired any staff yet, because he's a young entrepreneur, hasn't got much money to put into the business. So he sees a customer walk into his office. Potentially it can be a client as well, because he is in touch with various clients, of course, in the past. So he sees someone walk into his office, and he assumes that it's a client. So what he does in this case is that he immediately picks up his phone and he pretends to crack a massive deal on the phone, and then he throws around facts and figures, and he closes the deal in front of that client. And all the while this person is looking at him, and he's thinking that, okay, good, he's trying to crack a deal, that's good. So after the entrepreneur puts his phone down, then he asks this person who just walked into his office, yes, how may I help you? The person says that I am here to make sure that I activate your phone lines. So parents have been thinking for a very long time that, okay, what do schools do? The teachers, what do they do? Now you got your kids at home and you realize what schools do for you and your kids. You realize what teachers, educators do for you and your kids. Most of the parents are having to homeschool their kids at this point in time, and it is not an easy task. It is not an easy task, but we do that for you. Why? Not because of the pay, not because of anything else. It's just because educators are missionaries. It's our life's mission to educate students well and to give them an opportunity to progress in life and to train them for the real world. So it's important that parents and schools work hand in hand at this point in time. Not hand in glove, of course, but yes, hand in hand. There are various misconceptions about school fees that are going around at this point in time, and I would just like to talk about a few of them. Your school fees don't cost much, and this isn't just for parents of our school, of course. This is for parents all over the world, particularly those parents who have kids in fee-paying schools, independent schools. You understand the difficulties of educating a child. You've got your kids at home right now. Teachers perform this task day in and day out, 24/7, 365 days a year. That is their job. That is what they do. It is not an easy task. It's easier to perform any other task, to work in any other line of work. But to be a teacher is to basically become a parent itself. So parents, your school fees don't cost much, all right? And if you have been paid, of course, we fully understand at this point in time that there are layoffs. It's a very deep crisis that we find ourselves in. Finances are scarce. But those of you who can afford to pay your school fees, please do. Your teachers are working day in and day out. You are seeing the online lessons that they take. You're seeing the presentations, the videos that they are sharing at this point of time. They're working even harder than ever. They've never worked this hard in their lives. I can assure you, it is not easy for them. They are going through a lot as well. They have household chores. All right, they have to look after their kids at home. Their maids and their help are not coming to help them at this point in time. They are washing the vessels, mopping, cleaning, just like you are, and they're working as well. Despite that, some parents who can afford to pay the fees at this point in time are not paying fees. So those of you, of course, who can, it's a humble request. Parents the world over, please make sure that the teachers will get paid next month. Otherwise, it's a massive crisis that we are going to find ourselves in. And this isn't just our school; it is schools in different parts of the country, the world. So support your schools, support your educators, support your teachers. They are working for you and your child, but they are particularly working for the kids. So support them and encourage them. They are willing to solve doubts at any time of day. Take this point into consideration. The ninth pillar of a great school is robust and rigorous self-evaluation. It's also important to look back and realize what has worked for us and what hasn't worked for us. So schools will have to reflect once they come out of this current crisis that we find ourselves in. It's important to understand the role of schools as well. What will the role of a school be in the future? Will it remain the same? Will it not remain the same? These are questions that I get to be answered. Just like on a plumber's truck, you can very aptly put this line: we fix what your husband couldn't. Just like on the church billboard, you can very aptly put this line: 7 days without God is called a week. Just like on a car dealership board, you can put this line: the best way to get back on your feet is to miss a car EMI. So, what can you write about schools at this point of time? What is the role of schools? What is the importance of schools? Those are questions that are yet to be answered. Those questions I leave to you. But I have a few prescriptions for schools. So those, of course, who run schools, those who work in schools, just 4 or 5 points that you should keep in mind, not only during the crisis, but then post the crisis as well. Point number 1 is appreciation for the diversity of intelligence. Every child is different, every child is unique, and we have to understand this point. The second point is the need to adapt teaching styles to different learning speeds. And I have spoken about this at the past, but even during the current online era, where online classes are taking place, every child will not be able to learn at the same pace. So my recommendation is that send a video of your lesson, send notes separately as well, send a recorded video of the lesson that you are taking live, so that kids can look back at it once they are free. The third point is this flexibility that allows learners to pursue their interest and strength. Now, every child isn't, of course, the same. We also have to keep this point in mind. So since they're not the same, we have to cater our education style, our teaching pedagogies to pursue their interest and strength as well. Different model of assessments, which is the fourth point as well. The whole importance of assessments, of testing has changed. So the aim of education isn't to just assess right now, it's to actually make sure that kids are understanding what is being taught and they learn properly. The fifth and the most important point I personally feel is liberal arts. Kids should take part in various type of activities that they want, whether it's painting, arts, whether it's debating, whether it's dancing, anything that you want to. Time to hone as many skills as you can, develop as many skills as you can. This is a wonderful opportunity. So if you want to learn how to play the drums, if you want to hone your singing skills, if you want to, if you want to learn how to cycle, or if you want to do more push-ups, anything that you want to do throughout your lives, this is the right time. And this isn't just for kids, but this is the same for adults as well. I'm just about to come to the questions. Just one last thing that I want to say. Of course, I have a lot of points to share, but we are all in this together. This crisis affects all of us. We are all sailing in the same boat. We have been thrown into the deep end of the ocean, and we will come out of this not separately but together. So it's important that we work together. So all stakeholders of schools, whether it's the management, the principals, the teachers, the parents, the kids, regulators as well. Everyone has to understand at this point of time that we have to act as one for the interests of our kids. It is our kids who matter the most, and education should definitely not suffer. So that's what I have to say. I have spoken about the 9 pillars of a great school. I've tried to touch upon various points in terms of online lessons, about the current fee issue that we're facing as well. I hope that there's something that you've learned from this live session. The next few minutes I'll try and answer as many questions as I can. So let me just open the chat screen here. Okay, so we've got a lot of questions, so I'll try and answer the ones at the end first. Yes, so Jasmine, oh yes, Jasmine ma'am, I think, yes, if that's you. By this time, so keeping kids in the house, parents would have understood the importance of schools and the impetus and the importance of schools in their child's life, of course, and I have spoken about this. So it's important that parents, If you can pay fees, pay fees. Teachers will be able to work more and more. Miss Suresh, say something about managing stubborn children, because basically children are like that only. Teachers are managing to some extent, but say something for parents. Well, every child is different. There are tantrums that kids throw. I have a 2-year-old as well. It is not easy being a parent. She doesn't listen to me. She listens to everyone else in this world. She listens to her maid. She listens to her friends. She listens to her grandparents, but she will not listen to me unless I actually make an effort to listen to her. So if kids are throwing tantrums, what I basically learned is that there's something that they want. So understand what they want. Understand their likes and dislikes, and of course they'll respond to you. But please do give them some time and be patient. Santosh, Mr. Santosh, important point you had discussed. Many of the parents are not able to digest e-learning concept. Any type of strategy would like to implement. Well, suddenly parents have been transformed into educators themselves. So what you're doing at this point in time is that you are homeschooling your child. It is not easy, so you have to understand the role of educators first of all. But at this point in time, I think it's important to motivate your child to take part in the online lessons, to ask doubts. Separately, please do stay in touch with your teachers. Ask them to clarify any doubts that you have, particularly in our school. What we've done is that we've shared a lot of content. We've given you access to educational apps and so on and so forth. But it is not easy, but I think that's a skill that we all have to learn. So if your child is busy for around 2 or 3 hours a day taking part in the online lessons, of course, then it will be easier for you to work with your child after that. And when you also get time, if you're free from your office calls, from your Zoom calls and so on and so forth, please do try and sit for the online classes and try and understand the topic that your child finds hard to understand. Right, so I hope that's answered your question. Someone says, Mr. Sri Hanuman said that what you're saying is right, but what about the teaching style of teachers? Well, they've been thrown into the deep end of the ocean. They are not particularly trained for this. Despite that, they're making a lot of effort. So do appreciate the effort that they are putting in. Do drop them a message after this video if you can. Praise them. Understand what they're also going through as well. They are suffering just like you, and they have to prepare lessons. And particularly the way I am, and like since my staff is on the video, the live video as well. So school managements are making lives easier for the staffs, for the staff, of course. So go a bit easy on them. Don't pressurize them. Let them teach. Don't remove them from the classes, which I've seen. Don't mute them. If they are teaching, don't open Netflix on the side. Don't be on Snapchat or Facebook or Instagram on the side. Just listen to what they have to say. We're trying to keep the classes short, but focus. All the kids should focus on what is being taught to them. It's just 3 hours a day of classes, possibly even two as well. So you're used to being in school for around 6 hours every day, more than 6 hours in many cases. So it's just like 2 or 3 hours of school, and then you got the whole day to yourself. So for those 2 or 3 hours, focus and study. That will make the lives of your teachers easier. So I hope that answered your query. I'll pick up 2 more questions because we just about touched the 50-minute mark. We have Garima Singh, Miss Garima Singh. Support your educator. Yes, sir, it's a mutual process, and parents have to join in order to support and get the best of the available resources for their child. More they support, more refined this whole process will be. Absolutely, I think you're right. You're absolutely right. Parents need to support schools at this point in time. They need to support educators. So of course, yes. So parents have to understand this, and I'm very happy to say that our parents of our schools are, and they are supportive, and they are giving recommendation and feedback, and we are acting upon that. So if you give good feedback, and then schools will act upon that. Like someone recently said that, okay, Skype isn't working well for us. Uh, could you shift to some other platform? Parent got in touch with me on LinkedIn, and then I personally messaged the parent back and I said, yes, we are. Thank you for this feedback, of course. One last question then. Two last questions. I have a lot of questions about tech. So Rajiv Bell. Okay, yes. What are the essential practices of teachers in a system where students are learning outside of school? Essential practices. Well, I think it's very important to understand that this isn't what we are used to as educators. Teaching online isn't that easy. Most of the kids don't even listen to you half of the time. So it's more important to to particularly make sure that the kids are engaged. So the aim of online lessons isn't to pass on the content. The content can be passed on in WhatsApp groups, videos can be passed on, presentations can be passed on, documents can be passed on, right? Through educational apps as well, content can be passed on. The aim is to have an interaction. So the kids at least have a face to ask questions too. So it's more important to engage with your students, to interact with your students at this point of time. They are going through a lot. A major chunk of students, once they come out of the crisis, will be showing symptoms of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot of adults will as well. We're feeling caged in our houses, so kids also feel that as well. So we have to adapt the way that we teach to the current crisis, but keep the lessons short. Don't keep them content heavy. Interact with the kids much more on these during the online lessons. I hope that answers your question. And one last question that I'll take from Ms. Rupan Hussain. There was one question. Yes, how could we use virtual reality in the work with gifted children? Virtual reality is a wonderful tool to educate students. It's been around for decades now, but it hasn't been used in schools much. The most important thing that you have to keep in mind in terms of VR is that you need a headset. So if you have a headset, of course, then you can access a lot of VR content. We in our schools have tried this in the past as well. I particularly gone to classes and I've shown kids how VR is used, and I've given live examples by calling kids in front and putting a headset in front of them in the class. This was a few years ago, but you need a headset for that. For gifted children, I think VR is a wonderful tool to educate them, for especially gifted kids, of course. But an even better tool at this point in time would be AR, which is augmented reality. For that, you do not need any special device. Even a smartphone can do wonders. So VR is a thing of the future, but it is not accepted much within the educational ecosystem at this point in time. But in the next few years, of course, it will be. So I hope that answers your question. And I'll just try and read out some remarks that I'm seeing. Thank you for all your wishes. It was wonderful to start the session around an hour ago. A lot of you wished afternoon. There were hundreds of afternoon messages which I've seen, and I'm very happy to see that our kids and parents and staff are on the chat. I had a wonderful time. It was a pleasure to answer your questions. I hope that I've been able to share something which is useful. I hope that there are some key points that you can take away from this live session at this point of time. I would like to thank Entab for giving me this platform to talk about education post the crisis that we find ourselves in. Any questions that you have, please feel free to get in touch with me afterwards. I am active on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, Twitter. If you want to send a mail to me with your questions or any queries that you have, you can send a mail to me at reekritserai@gmail.com. That's my name at gmail.com. It's spelled REEKRITSERAI@gmail.com. So I had a wonderful time. You've been a wonderful audience. You've raised some wonderful questions. I've loved this conversation that we've had. So wishing you all the best. Stay home, stay safe, and I'm sure that I'll get to see all of you very, very soon. Have a wonderful day. And now it is time for lunch. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.